We now know who is on the Green Bay Packers in the new league year for 2022, and Randall Cobb is among them.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. You can follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. We are going to start today with Randall Cobb and the receiver position because we know, as I said at the top, who is on this team and who is not on this team right now. A lot to get to with those pieces, and we will do that in due time. I want to focus on the receiver room because right now this is pretty fleshed out. Randall Cobb took about a $5.5 million pay cut in 2022 from 8.5 down to 3. That would have essentially all but wiped out the delta that the Packers had to meet to get under the cap. They did another very smart salary cap maneuver by not signing the De'Vondre Campbell deal until the new league year. So you save the $5 or so million that he was going to count on the cap. So he's not technically signed to start the new league year. He's an unrestricted free agent. And then they sign him. So that saves them some money. Together, it saves them about $10 million. They needed to get just under 7. Well, that is still not enough to sign everyone that they ended up tendering that we know about. And we're going to talk about those guys and what they mean for this team coming up in a little bit. But this is important for the room of receivers that the Packers are going to have because Davante Adams on the franchise tag, we expect that he is going to get a long-term deal. The expectation around the league is that this will happen from Green Bay. I mean, at both sides, I think everyone expects this is going to happen. And presumably, I mean, the strongest evidence that this is going to get worked out is Aaron Rodgers doesn't decide to come back if he thinks Davante Adams is going to be so furious with the franchise tag that he would push his way out. Presumably. I think that's a pretty safe assumption that we can make. So, okay, Davante Adams. They tender Allen Lazard. He's a restricted free agent. He's back in the room. And Amari Rodgers was already under contract, the only guy for sure under contract in 2022. We thought that Randall Cobb could get released. He wasn't. In fact, the Packers did not release anyone to get under the cap. There's probably some reworked deals that we don't know about. They had to do something to save another, a little over $4 million. But so now you have to figure out what this all looks like. Where do you need to add moving forward? I did not assume Randall Cobb was going to be back, at least for a while, until recently, in the last week. How much does he have left in the tank? Now remember, he was in the middle of lighting up the Rams. When he got hurt. And so when you think about his role, it took him a little while, but then he was not a full off-season addition for the Packers. They didn't get him until camp. Matt LaFleur didn't really figure out what the situation was with Randall, and get him involved in the game plan really until about the middle of the season. Then all of a sudden he's finding some rhythm in the game where the Packers had no receivers. Randall Cobb was the main guy in that Arizona game, scored 2 touchdowns. In that Rams game, he was sitting at 4 catches for 95 yards and a score in that game. And he had been the guy who consistently on third down Rodgers was looking for. It wasn't like he was having these monster games. I mean, he had a nice game against Pittsburgh, 5 catches for 69. Like I said, a nice game with 2 touchdowns. He had the pair of touchdowns against Arizona, and then he was playing really well against the Rams. He didn't do much in really any of the other games. Caught a couple balls from Jordan Love. But it's not like he was some heavy jet guy. He had not been fully acclimated into this offense. They didn't seem to use him in particularly creative ways, which was surprising to me. Does a full offseason and some input from Aaron Rodgers change the way that Randall Cobb gets used in 2022? How does the return of Kylan Hill affect what the backfield snaps look like? If he's still working his way back, could we see Randall Cobb in some backfield alignments? They did that a little bit. What if Amari Rodgers can take a step forward? And maybe to a certain point, this is, a boon for Amari because those guys are close. Cobb and Rodgers are, both Rodgers, but in this case, I'm talking about Amari Rodgers. And so you can help keep the rookie who is now a rising sophomore, keep his spirits high. Keep his confidence high. Give him the finer points. Now that Randall Cobb has been in this offense, he's got a better understanding of it. And he can help guys like Amari Rodgers and whoever the Packers draft, because I think they're going to draft someone, understand the finer points of how to play with Aaron Rodgers. This is a group now, Allen Lazard, Davante Adams, they've got a continuity. This is going to be year 4 for Allen Lazard. Davante Adams goes back to 2014. Randall Cobb had the stretch early in his career. He's come back. He comes back now. He's got the shared history with Davante Adams too. Amari Rodgers now. There's some continuity there. Malik Taylor is back. Continuity. Now he's not really a part of this offense. He was in and out of the lineup with injuries. He was a core special teamer, probably part of the reason why this special teams was not as good as he was hurt and had COVID and was just not the same player on special teams that we were used to seeing. So Marquez Valdes-Scantling is the guy we're waiting on. And all of a sudden, the money exploded early. And all of a sudden, it's starting to not dry up, because there's still plenty of teams out there who want a receiver. But Juju Smith-Schuster still out there. MVS still. I mean, there's some good players that we thought might be signed by now who aren't. And unclear why that is. Now, it's been one official day. And I'm sure a lot of teams were going, well, let's see what the Packers do, because there's no use spinning our wheels with this guy if he's going to be brought back. Doesn't look like the Packers are going to be in a position to do that. That means this team needs to add speed. And preferably someone who can also do something after the catch with it. Because that was the big flaw in Marquez Valdes-Scantling's game to me. Someone as fast as he is, you'd love to just run on crossers and receiver screens, get him in space and moving, and say, go create yards after catch. He's just not that guy, even with his speed. And he lacks the fluidity and the hand-eye. That's why he drops balls. They did it a little bit in 20 when they were running mesh like 50 times a game. But when you saw those crossing routes and scheming him open, I mean, he was wide open on some of these, and they just didn't work the way that you thought they might. Would it look different if that's Chris Olave? Would it look different if it's Christian Watson? Would it look different if that's George Pickens? if that's Treylon Burks. Burks does not have the same sort of deep speed, but after the catch, that guy is a MFer. I'm telling you. And no one caught him, by the way. Even with Cobb, they still need that element. It was supposed to be Amari Rodgers. He was supposed to be able to do some things after the catch with the ball. We just haven't seen that explosiveness from him. And I thought that he bulked up a little too much in the draft season. I think he was thinking the teams were going to want him to see a little bit more cross-trained at running back and be that sort of gadget player. I think the Packers are happy to give him some opportunities to just be a guy. Hopefully he can get some of that burst back, because we saw it at Clemson. He was a dynamic player at Clemson, run after catch. He has juice with the ball in his hands. We didn't see it. We didn't see it. So how do you shake out the slot reps? I mean, Randall Cobb is going to be the slot. We know that. Can he get on the field in other ways? He's not going to play special teams. Maybe he should. Maybe he should be the punt returner. It's probably going to be Amari Rodgers. And the one time he got to return the ball, he fumbled. So it's this is an Aaron Rodgers thing. Aaron Rodgers' fingerprints are all over this. Randall Cobb is back because Aaron Rodgers wants him back. Period. That's it. So I don't think Green Bay can say, okay, well, because he's going to be out there, do nothing. No, he was not a huge part of the game plans last year. He was when they absolutely needed him on third downs. Rodgers would look to him, but he was a non-factor in the 49ers game. Rodgers didn't look at him. Now he's coming back off core muscle surgery, and it took him a while to get back into shape. And he didn't. It wasn't like he was running wide open all game. I still think there's useful pieces that he can bring to an offense, but he's a secondary player. I mean, he's a 3-4 kind of receiver. And this is the criticism, right, of the Packers, that the offense doesn't have a 2. I don't know that they need a 2 if you have a bunch of 3s who fit. Lazard, Rodgers, Cobb, and then a speed guy. Especially if you have a tight end that can make things work. Maybe Austin Hooper, who was released, fits that bill. Maybe they draft a tight end. There's some really athletic tight ends in this draft. Maybe they get Big Bob Tonyan back. He's a free agent. Maybe Josiah DeGuara takes a step with more playing time. They still have plenty of question marks here to figure this out. We know Randall Cobb is back. What is his role in the offense in 2022? What do they want his role in the offense to be? I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have takes on that, and we'll see just how much Matt LaFleur is willing to implement of that. And I think it will be affected by what they're able to do. Are they going to add a pass catcher in the free agent market? Are they going to add a pass catcher in the draft? What kind of pass catcher is it going to be? I think all of these are important factors when trying to figure out and project what's going to be happening next. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. It's that time of year again. College basketball is upon us. Tourney starts today. For all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for scores, podcasts, news, and it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your source for sports wagering on live betting in any sport you're looking for. Favorite Vegas casino games, hockey, NBA. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up and learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen every day. Make sure you're listening to Locked On NFL, Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NFL every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Okay, so we know who is on this team right now. The Packers had to tender some of their guys. There's some exclusive rights guys and some restricted free agent guys. The Packers tendered Alan Lazard. We knew that one. Chris Barnes, Dominique Dafty, Josh Hansen, Josh Nijman, Randy Ramsey, Malik Taylor. And it's Jake Hansen. I said Josh because I was looking at Yash. Jake Hansen. So that doesn't change a lot about the team. The two big names that I think we need to think about. Yash, okay, easy. He might need to get paid in a year. So they need to have some plans there. Maybe this is why I think a tackle is going to be a big part of the plan here in the draft coming up, because getting rid of Billy Turner and replacing him with Elton Jenkins, totally fine. Or getting rid of Billy Turner and replacing him with Yash Nijman, totally fine. In either case, you either need to pay Yash, or he's going to get paid because he's going to start 6-8 games next year. He's going to get paid by someone else. You're not going to have the money to pay him, and you're going to need a swing tackle. Chris Barnes. Now, it's easy enough to give him the exclusive rights tender. You're paying him essentially nothing. So it's not like this changes all of their plans. But I thought Barnes and Campbell were a nice 1-2. There were some games where Barnes played really well, some games where he played pretty poorly. But for someone who's only going to probably play 30-40% of snaps, you're fine. You're fine when you have an all-pro next to him. I don't think the Packers are going to worry enough about that to think, okay, even middle rounds, unless there's really some great value, 3, 4, 5. I mean, once you get to 5, you're looking at special teams guys anyway, so maybe in that range. This is not going to be a priority for them. And then Dominique Daphne's an interesting one because he was hurt for a lot of the year, but he gave them some pop in 2020. And he's a physical blocker. He's not dynamic as a pass catcher, but he's big. And he's going to go where you need him to go. He's reliable in that way. I still think tight end is potentially on the agenda here, but it was so cheap that you had to make this move. I don't know, does Hansen move the needle for you? Randy Ramsey, they like Randy Ramsey's talent, but we've never really seen him on the field in an NFL game. So what does he have to provide? TBD, probably nothing. And then Malik Taylor is a no-brainer as a core special teams player. Probably not going to give you much as a receiver, but as a special teams player, there's something there. Free agents. They didn't tender Henry Black. That is not that surprising to me. They also didn't tender Chauncey Rivers. Henry Black was a nice story that became a player that the Packers relied upon way too much. And I mean way too much. So it is, I think, important that the Packers find a third safety. And I wouldn't be surprised if they used a real pick on it. It's a sneaky need. I was surprised when they didn't last year. And I said that on the show that I thought they would. I said on the show that I thought they should. And they didn't. It's not the reason that they lost to the 49ers by any means. I think you could make the case it is a big contributing factor to a reason that they lost to the Vikings. But fine, whatever. Like, it didn't hurt them. They were still the number 1 seed. And so, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't catastrophic. But they had the chance to do it, and they just didn't. And they didn't. It's not even like they brought in some other guys who could compete or signed a cheap veteran. No, it's just, here's Ennis Gaines, Vernon Scott, who couldn't get on the field. Oren Burks is signing in San Francisco. Corey Bojorquez, apparently gone. And then there's some guys on this list that I think, you start to look at and you go, okay, what is the market for them going to be? Dennis Kelly. You probably get him back if you want at a reasonable price. That makes sense. Given the loss of Billy Turner, if he wants to be back. Kevin King. What's his situation? He doesn't have a contract. Voided that contract. So I don't see that happening. If they wanted to bring him back, they would have done the thing that would have saved them money, and that was restructured it so that he would get a contract. So he's gone. Tyler Lancaster probably can be back on a vet minimum kind of deal if they want him to be. If they can't find the right guy in the draft, it makes sense to bring him back. They need that rotational strength on the interior. They're going to play all those light boxes. You need that. Whitney Merciless, keep an eye on that one. I think Whitney Merciless, who busted his butt to try and get back out on the field, is a name to watch here because Green Bay is going to, it could be a much bigger role for him this year. Go chase a title and be the third pass rusher. Even if they draft someone high, the chances of that guy being able to come in and compete right away, not very big. And Merciless was kind of settling into a groove in Green Bay before he got hurt. So that would be a nice thing to have back. Lucas Patrick signing in Chicago. I know that hurts, but that is the reality. Equinemius St. Brown. Can you find someone that likes the talent outside of Green Bay? I mean, he was playing for Green Bay. Now, not doing anything meaningful, but every time he would get an opportunity, I liked what I saw. He's been inconsistent in his career. That's the problem. I had some drops, and you just have never seen him put the whole package together in a way that makes him a super appealing player. It might just be a lost cause at this point. It might just be the kind of thing where you say, okay, you're gonna take a guy in the top 100 and you're gonna take a guy on day 3, and you're just gonna replace the day 3 guys, the MVS, the EQs, and go from there. I mean, I think that is not just a reasonable but prudent potential path forward. Is Rodgers going to throw those guys? No, but he didn't throw to EQ anyway, unless he had to. So that's probably toast. Chandon Sullivan was the team's starting nickel last year. He was the nickel. They don't have one of those right now. Now they drafted Shamar Jean Charles. Is that a viable plan? We haven't really had the chance to see him play very much. Are you the slot corner spot is a starting spot. That's a starting spot. Are you comfortable with a Super Bowl team with a guy who we've never seen start NFL games being the guy, the guy that's going to play 70% of snaps? That's a pretty big risk. That's a pretty big risk, and I think it's why the Packers are trying to get a deal done, reportedly, with Rasul Douglas. As of this recording, late on Wednesday night, he does not have a deal yet, but multiple reports say that they are working in that direction to get one done. That would give the Packers a lot of flexibility. It would give them a really good cornerback room, and we are going to talk about that in just a second. Today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. So why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Why not save time and money and use Rock Auto? Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? You wouldn't willingly pay more for anything else in your life. So why pay more for car parts? They have everything you need. Go and explore their easy-to-use website and see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. And thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen every day. Now go make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Rasul Douglas. The key now is it seemed like the Packers were negotiating in good faith, which is ideal. But when Rasul Douglas said that he would come back for the minimum or a little bit more, everyone said, oh, that's so great, that's so cute. But when you get the offers, that stuff goes out the window. Reporting from Wednesday, says that Rasul Douglas has received other offers, potentially higher offers. He's received a lot of interest, but he is in the process of working on a deal with the Packers, that there is motivation from both sides to get a deal done. And one of the appeals of doing it now is they're already cap compliant. Now they still have to make these moves. If you're gonna add money, you have to stay cap compliant. But it's not as stringent. And they have time. Now they have time. They can just say, all right, I need an extra week if you're the Packers, much like they did with De'Vondre Campbell. we're going to sign this deal. It's done. And so give us 2 days. We got to rework a couple contracts and figure this out, or release a player or whatever it is. Rasul Douglas with Jair Alexander and Eric Stokes. I was trying to rack my brain. Who has a better 1, 2, 3 at the corner position than Green Bay? Who? This is not the NFL that it was a few years ago when you had these great tandems of guys, where you had Darrelle Revis and Antonio Cromartie playing together, or when you had Denver and it's Aqib Talib and it's Chris Harris, and you have these incredible secondaries, the Legion of Boom. Even then, it was Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman, and then a bit of a rotating door over on the opposite side. They had some other guys who came through and made it work, but those were your core pieces. There are some teams that have a nice 1-2 punch. The Patriots had an awesome 1-2 punch with Stephon Gilmore and J.C. Jackson. Neither of those guys in the building anymore. So maybe Carolina, maybe Dante Jackson, Gilmore, but we don't know the future of Gilmore right now. So I think this has the chance, if this all gets done, to be the best secondary, the best cornerback room in the league, and the best secondary in the league. And you can figure out the positional fits. Eric Stokes, probably not an ideal fit in the slot. They decided that when they played him outside and put Kevin King in the slot when Stokes was playing well enough to usurp King's position. And I do think situationally you'd want to use Jair Alexander there, and think about what this does with an entire offseason to plan, with Joe Barry in the house, having seen Eric Stokes play, having seen Jair Alexander play, having seen Rasul Douglas play. Matt LaFleur talked about the year 2 leap, and he talked about it with his offense, and he said one of the big reasons was the coaching staff had seen these guys, and after a year, better understood what they were good at, and more importantly, what they weren't good at. And so then you work to put them in the best position to succeed. Keeping these 3 guys means tremendous flexibility. I think any of them can play the boundary. Given this defense, I think any of them can play the slot. Certainly Stokes is athletic enough to do it. Maybe you don't want him to do it against a team that has some sort of jitterbug slot type, but there aren't that many teams that even have those anymore. So, maybe a 2-way go against Justin Jefferson is going to be tough work, but that's tough work for any cornerback in the league. That's tough work for Jalen Ramsey. It would be tough work for Jair Alexander, and you'd probably put Jair on him. But you could just as easily say, you know what, actually the best thing to do is to keep a safety to that side, and you put one of your secondary guys on there, and you do what the Patriots do. Having those 3 guys, again, continuity number 1. They didn't really get to play together this season, except for in the playoff game, and Jair really didn't play that much in that game. So you bring across 2 guys who did play, Stokes and Douglas, with Jair Alexander, who played with Eric Stokes and certainly went through training camp and all that stuff, was in the meetings, in the building. They have a familiarity, and then you're keeping the continuity with your safeties. All of that has value as well. And so you're losing Zadarius Smith, and that's unfortunate. He signs in Baltimore on a 5-year, $35 million deal that could be a $50 million deal. But you're keeping the core of your pass rush from this past season intact. Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Kenny Clark. For now, Dean Lowry. And you probably are going to try and bolster that. Hopefully you can bring back Whitney Merciless. And then you bring back this all-pro linebacker, and you're bringing back what could be the best secondary in football. This defense has the chance to be really good if it can stay even marginally healthy in 2022. And we talked about that in 2021, and I still think that was right. We saw what a healthy version of this defense looked like against the 49ers. They're monstrous. If they can pick up a boost or 2 in the draft, another situational edge rusher. If Whitney Merciless can get healthy, maybe you get another defensive lineman. And this secondary can stay healthy. This defense can be so good this season, especially in an NFC that is just hemorrhaging people. Just hemorrhaging players. This secondary has a chance to be special. To be in that Tramon Williams, Charles Woodson, Sam Shields conversation with Nick Collins and those guys. I mean, we're not talking about Willie Wood and Herb Adderley. That's not what we're doing, and that's fine. But we're talking about one of the best corners in the league. He's about to get paid. One of the best young corners in the league. An ascending player in Rasul Douglas. An extremely talented safety in Darnell Savage, and one of the steadiest players at any position in the league in Adrian Amos. Now they need to find a third safety still. And they probably need to find one more boundary corner, although they have 3 guys who can do it, and we'll see what Gene Charles can be and do. They probably would like one more. There's special potential in this group. All right, we're going to be back tomorrow. Enjoy the basketball. And we'll have a lot more to talk about as the storylines unfold. If you have questions, you can send them to me. We'll answer some of those tomorrow. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to hit us up on the Locked On Packers fan hotline, you can do that, 920-341-3775 to stay Locked On Packers.